I'm calling this trip East Meets West, simply because we've come across from the East Coast and we're now fully ensconced in the West Coast, and I am rapt to be back. Love the West Coast. So we travelled from our stop at Lake Pearson Dock Camp over to the West Coast via Arthur's Pass, and we ended up staying the night at Barrytown, which is where we house sat for 6 weeks and looked after an Airbnb there. It was like a bit like coming home. So I got my fix of West Coast Beach again, beautiful morning walk, and we have managed to make it to Hokitika. So we are currently parked up at the NZMCA Park at Hokitika, and at this stage we're going to be here for 3 nights. Our first night was rather wet, so yesterday we just had a stay put day, and we're going to try and dodge the showers today and have a look around some of the walking tracks. There are quite a number of small loop walking tracks, so we're going to unpeel the layers of Hokitika today. So we headed north of Hokitika and we turned off the main road, and we're heading towards a place called Goldsboro, because there are quite a few smaller loop walking tracks around the place, because this area is just steeped in gold digging history and has a really rich mining history in this whole area. So we're suckers for old cemetery, so we saw a sign saying the Stafford Cemetery, and we've driven up this little tree-lined track, and we're now just surrounded in the history of the whole place. This is one old cemetery.
A lot of people from Ireland.
A lot of people that have come over from Ireland are buried here, dating back. Some of the graves are way back into the 1800s. This one here, 1877, you know. And back then, of course, they wrote the epitaphs on some of the headstones are really interesting and tell their own story. So nothing like a good old cemetery. Okay, now that's interesting. I am not going to open that one. Ooh. No headstone, no nothing, just an iron coffin sitting on top of the ground. Oh, there's a gap in it. Not looking, bag's not. And we've come to the Blue Spur Bushwalk. So here, this is just a short tramp that leads us through the gold mining area, which was worked by the miners back in the 1860s. And there are old water races, old fireplaces and chimneys that we can see, tunnels. Keep to the track though, because we may fall down a mine shaft, which would not be good. So 10 minutes into our walk, we're starting to see the first signs of all the mine workings from all those years ago, and the first of the tail races are starting to come into view. So now it's time to breathe in a bit, because we've got a bit of a narrow walkway to get through one of the water races. Whoa, breathe in. Wow. It's a little bit wet underfoot, but one took us about 1 hour 10, 1 hour 15, so pretty wet underfoot, but it's to be expected. We've had 2 nights now of pretty heavy rain in the area, so once again, good old hiking boots, bloody worth their weight in gold.
Today.
Yeah. So, onto the third track. The weather's still holding. The storm hasn't hit us yet. Number 3. We've driven around the outskirts of Hokitika, really, haven't we?
Yeah.
To the Rimu Hill Lookout and the Rimu Heritage Trail. It's about a 1 hour loop walk, and there are lots of information boards all dotted everywhere about what went on in this area, and it was known as Woodstock.
Upper Woodstock they had on there.
Upper Woodstock.
Oh.
So, more history to take on board and another walk. So it's stop number 4 for today. The weather is just holding, so we've come out to the Hokitika Gorge. It was about a 30k drive from where we were at Rimu Hill Lookout, and let's go and have a look at the short walk in through the gorge and to the swing bridge. Side of the road to a memorial. Now this memorial is known as the Kowhitirangi incident. This is where a local farmer, Stanley Graham, he was aged 41 and it was in 1941, and he had a bit of a bad temper, and he also had a stash of rifles, so the two don't usually go together. So unfortunately he went on a bit of a rampage and he killed 7 people, 7 locals, and they consisted of police constables, home guard and some of the local residents, and he was just having a bad day. So they went on a manhunt for him after his first killing, and 7 deaths resulted before he was taken down, wounded, and then later died. Here in the little settlement of Kowhitirangi, I think I'm saying that right, and it's just something I've never really heard about. But after doing our research, just a little settlement on the way out to the Hokitika Gorge. Here in Hokitika at the NZMCA Park, and after a rather wet and windy day all day yesterday, which sort of kept us well grounded, we're off on our bikes today. We're going to try and bike to Lake Mihinapua, which we can do so from the camp here, so it just saves us loading up the bikes on the back of the ute, which is great. So it's going to be part of the Great Wilderness Bike Trail, and that actually starts up at Greymouth and ends up right down at Ross. So we'll be cycling part of that trail today. Very much looking forward to it. Not sure how far it's going to be, but it's certainly a beautiful day. What a difference a night makes on the west coast. Crazy. a screaming halt. The track is flooded. And Scotty did go through, but it was it was just getting too deep. So we're 8.5 kilometres in from where we left the park, where we camped, and there was the yellow tape across the road and across the track, and the track is flooded. Scotty took one for the team and went in.
When I started getting to 3 foot deep and it was getting deeper and deeper, I thought, nah.
Yeah,
too hard on the axles of the bikes and everything like that, and I'm already soaking wet from turning around.
He put his foot down and it came up to nearly his knees. So he took one for the team and came back. We just have to be careful with the e-bikes. The motor part is sealed, but it was actually creeping up quite close to where his battery is, and although it's water resistant, they're not to be fully submerged in water. So unfortunately we can't get to the lake, but you know, we've done 8.7 kilometres, so it's another 8.7 kilometres back. We are leaving Hokitika today, so it's probably a good idea to turn around and go back to the caravan. Looking at our maps, we still do have a fair way to go to the lake.
Yeah, a wee bit. It would have been nice, but
yeah,
not gonna be silly.
One for the list to do when we come back.
Yeah.
But by all means, do the track, do the trail.
Track.
God, it's good. It is such a good track. Really well maintained, and it's easy. Flat going, a few hills and corners, but nothing too hard. So, back we go. Thanks to Mother Nature.